is Off Script with Trish Glose, intimate interviews and conversations with interesting people. And in front of my mic today is Bree Boskov. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm well.
And you are a master of wine.
Yes, I am.
Okay, so we're going to talk about what that means exactly because it's a big deal. Right?
I guess within the wine industry, it's one of the highest. Yeah.
Like wine nerds everywhere, when they hear master of wine, it's like, oh, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it's what every wine geek kind of aspires to be. Yeah.
I'm not calling you a wine geek per se, but so I always start off these with where are you from originally?
I grew up in Brisbane in Australia.
Okay, and you and I were actually chatting yesterday. You left at 18.
Yeah, so it was actually 19, almost 19. I took off as many Australians do on our sort of gap year. To travel the world. You know, a lot of Australians go to London first. I was obsessed with Canada and, old growth trees and green and, possibly everything that Australia isn't.
Right.
Yeah.
So where in Australia is this, where you grew up?
So Brisbane is about halfway up the east coast. It's just south of Cairns. Well, just south. It's about a 3-day drive south of Cairns.
Okay.
But it's literally smack bang in the middle of the east coast. So I grew up close to the world's largest sand island, Fraser Island, and lived on Moreton Bay, and had a very outdoorsy upbringing, always on the beach and always playing sport. And
I was going to ask, you grew up near water, near the ocean?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Yeah. So what was your childhood like?
It was just, an average, middle-class childhood. I played with the kids on our street and played a lot of sport. That's kind of what Aussies do.
Okay. Sports?
Sports, lots of sports. I swam, I did life saving, I did tennis and netball and...
Okay, wait, what's netball?
Netball is a very strange Australian form of basketball that only girls play.
Really?
Yeah. Actually, that's not true. There's mixed netball, you play indoor mixed netball and things like that.
Okay.
But it's a ball sport like basketball, but you can't run with the ball, so you can't travel with it. Once you get the ball, you have to stop. So in our as we age, we realize that sport really screwed up our knees.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Well, I actually would maybe be good at netball because I'm not a very good dribbler.
Yeah, see? You'd be perfect
if
at
you're
it.
not a good dribbler. And there's a hoop?
There's a hoop, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Netball. Were you good at it?
I wasn't great at it. I was a better swimmer than I was, netball, but I played it my entire, high school years and... it was a great team sport.
So what were you like in high school then? Was it still a lot of sports and very typical?
A lot of sports, but in high school I tended to get into more the theater and drama.
Oh, you're a theater nerd.
Yeah.
You're in good company, because I was too. Loved theater.
And, where did the theater take you?
Here. Well, it's one
in front of a mic.
Yeah, in front of a microphone. It was something that I loved being on stage as a young child. I was that look at me kid. You know what I mean? So, theater is a huge love of mine.
Yeah, mine too. I loved exploring characters and that role play, and that was a lot of fun for me. And if you give me a microphone around karaoke or something, it's a big regret. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you a big karaoke fan?
I try to stay away from it.
What's your go-to karaoke song?
Oh, boy. I tend to like Bjork and things like that.
Really?
Yeah.
That's hard. I'm Son of a Preacher Man, Dusty Springfield.
Oh, nice. Nice. Yeah.
I've somewhat perfected it in the car. But after maybe a couple glasses of wine, I think I sound awesome.
Yes.
As does everybody. We all think we sound great.
That's my problem as well.
Okay, so you left Australia, and that's, as you were saying, it's kind of a thing. When you're 18, 19, you leave just to go explore.
Yeah, we all take generally what's called a gap year, and we travel travel the world. And, you know, most of us go back to the mother country and, you know, spend our 2-year visa, that work visa that we get in London, which is what most of my friends did. And I just went to North America. So I got the year in Canada, which, was, I guess, a little by design in that I knew that the film industry was quite large there. And, you know, when I went over there, it was 97. And, you know, it was Hollywood North at the time there. So there was a lot of filming going on, and there was just a lot of opportunity for me to get involved in that world. And
that's what you wanted to do.
Yeah, I mean, you know, to be honest, I was 19. I didn't really know what I wanted to do.
Yeah, we don't really know a lot. We think we know a lot at 19. But...
Yeah, you know, I wish I was one of those people who, you know, had this burning desire and knew exactly what I wanted to do. But I'm, a constant explorer of whatever takes my fancy. And,
So did you have any jobs while in Canada, like acting jobs while you were there?
Yeah. So that's how I got into the wine industry as well. But acting jobs, obviously a lot of, you know, extra work. But we did, I was in Romeo Must Die.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And
as an extra?
I actually ended up getting a couple of little roles in there. So,
Nice.
yeah, I got moved around a bit within the extra world, but then ended up getting, like, small roles, like croupier and, you know.
So if I watch, I'm going to see you.
Possibly,
okay.
Yeah.
I'm watching Romeo Must Die tonight. I'm doing it.
Yeah. The croupier scenes in the casino, there's, like, dance scenes as well.
Are you a dancer, too?
No.
Oh.
No. I did jazz as a kid.
Nice.
You know, I thought I was a great dancer.
Of course. So you acted a little bit, and then tell me how that got you into the wine industry.
Well, like many in Vancouver at the time, and I guess many actors everywhere, I became, you know, a waitress with a corkscrew.
Yep.
And I was very fortunate to fall into a restaurant where it was fine dining, but it was Pacific Northwest fine dining, you know, so it was a lot of, you know, fresh seafood and things like that. And there was a huge wine list that was very international, and we had a wine director who was very engaging, and she was starting down the Master of Wine path, but in the process of that, you know, she would bring into the restaurant winemakers from Austria, you know, Willy Kracker and all of these amazing, fascinating people that we would come in and taste the wines with them and hear their life stories and, you know, just get this little piece of culture. And
yeah. Well, there is something about wine that's very romantic. It's just, it's old grape juice. And there's just something so, you know what I mean? There's something so beautiful about it. And it's been, you know, we've been drinking wine forever.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the oldest beverage, you know, next to beer, I guess. And
So was it something that you, just being there in this world, it just captivated you and you were just like, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, I just fell down that rabbit hole, you know. It's once you scratch the surface on it, there's so much depth to it. I've never found a subject that has, and I'm sure there's others out there, but, you know, it's constantly changing. Every year is different. Every country is different. The cultural changes that you see happening within a region's wine world, whether it's because of, you know, religion or war or, you know, it really is a human beverage, you know. It's the beverage of humanity, and it's just fascinating for me. And
every time I watch an episode of Game of Thrones,
yeah,
you know, it's like we need to open some wine and watch Game of Thrones at the same time, because that's what you do. But I think even what's fascinating is I know a little bit about wine, like just the very tip of the iceberg. And even at the Judges Forum that was in Ashland, I'm looking at some of these varietals and things I've never even heard of before.
Yeah.
And like you said, there's always something to learn that surrounds wine.
Yeah, it's constant learning. And, you know, I guess in the new world, we get hung up on varietals and varietal labeling and things like that. But, you know, what I love to discover more is in, you know, Europe and the old world, where, I don't know what these varieties are, and they're sort of an enigma, and you just have to either appreciate them or not. But there's so much culture in a single glass of wine, and where those grapes, how they came to be in that glass.
Yeah. Well, and so sommelier came first.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's usually how it goes. And so for people who have no idea what we're talking about, because I even in our newsroom, I'll say something about being a sommelier, and they're like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
I mean, if you can break it down, what does that actually mean, being a sommelier?
Yeah, a sommelier is the service of wine. So a wine steward, I guess traditionally a sommelier was, someone who sourced the wines for whether it was the royalty or the house or whatever. So you build those relationships with the farmers or the importers, put them on the wine list, and then you don't necessarily have to pair them to food on the menu, but it's how you deliver them to the consumer in the restaurant setting.
And it's a little bit of etiquette too with wine. Is that involved also?
Yeah, there's a lot of, I guess that comes into the romance around wine. Yeah, what type of glass you put it in. There's a lot of thought that goes into how you present wine. I think that's relaxing a little, but from a sommelier perspective, it's very traditional how you present a wine and serve it, and how you should be storing and cellaring it for its health. And
right. I think a lot of people who are very strict with, I want it in this glass, it seems like it's a little bit of both. It's like you can relax and have it in a red Solo cup with a hamburger. But at the same time, some nights you just want the fancy glass.
Yeah.
Right, and you want it done right, I guess.
It's all about circumstance and, where you are. I mean, some of the most delicious wines that I've experienced have been, sitting in a vineyard or, on a beach with a crisp glass of Assyrtiko, and in a little tumbler. There's nothing fancy about it.
Right.
So I think it depends on the pomp and circumstance surrounding where you are.
Totally. And then Master of Wine came next, and that just, as you said, is just a lot of education to get that status.
Yeah, so I mean, whether you're a master sommelier or a master of wine, a master sommelier is definitely more about the service and understanding the buying and economics of a wine list in a restaurant and things like that. Whereas master of wine is more of a broad qualification where you need to understand the viticultural aspects, the winemaking aspects, and economies of both, and all over the world as well. And then also, the business side, the market trends, how does Sweden function as a wine market, and how do you get your wines into that market? And then also trends in wine. So the journalistic side, which is probably, a lot of masters of wines are communicators more than anything. There's a lot of educators. There's a lot of communicators. And so it's how you approach the wine world and from a global perspective. So it's not insular and it's not necessarily focused in one place.
Well, and to put it into perspective, there are 350 Masters of Wine.
I think there's about 370 now. Yeah.
In the world.
In the world, yeah.
And there's only how many in the States? Less than 50?
Yeah, 40 odd. Yeah.
So I mean, just to put that into perspective, because again, for those who just can't quite grasp what it actually means to be a Master of Wine, there's only about 50 in the United States.
Yeah, we're a very small band, but we work closely with master sommeliers as well, and they're about the same size as well. So it's the highest qualification that you can achieve in the wine industry.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, well, definitely don't want to poo-poo it because it's just awesome. It's just an awesome title.
Yeah.
How did you get to Oregon?
How did I get to Oregon? I originally traveled back through Oregon in 2014 when I was coming to North America for the Master of Wine program seminar in San Francisco, and just realized that in the 10 years that it had been since I was here last, how much the industry had developed and how exciting it was becoming. And so I was fortunate enough to be invited back for Oregon Pinot Camp in the Willamette Valley in 2014.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Oregon Pinot Camp.
It is definitely, it's probably one of the best events in the wine industry globally.
That sounds awesome.
So well organized. You know, it shows really what Oregon is about, which is, you know, that community and collaboration. And yeah, it's really earnest, and I loved every minute of it. So yeah, that was sort of how I fell in love with Oregon. And then I had the opportunity in 2017 to come and work for the Oregon Wine Board as an education consultant, and I jumped at that, and I put together the Oregon Wine Symposium every year, which is in February, and I put together a lot of workshops and you know, industry development for producers and wine growers, and also do some trade seminars as well. So I love doing that. You know, I have an education background with the Wine and Spirit Education Trust, and so for me to get out and talk to the consumer-facing trade is you know, so much fun for me.
So did Oregon steal your heart a little bit?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's those, you know, the old growth trees and
it's the Pacific Northwest. There's something about this, true north that I am really drawn to, and it keeps, it's like a magnet for me. So
there's also something I feel like we're right next to the ocean. So it's this idea that you can just drive a couple hours and you can have this beautiful coast kind of right in front of you. There's something about that too.
The region is absolutely stunning. The coast so close. You know, you have the freshest seafood. I'm kind of obsessed with salmon as well because we just don't have that back in Australia. And I definitely got hooked working at a seafood restaurant in Vancouver.
For sure.
But so that's something that definitely brings me back. But then also, you know, you have these fabulous mountains, and they're stunning, and you know, the forests are beautiful, and I'm a mountain biker, so I enjoy you know, the downhill aspects of that, not so much the climbs up.
Always easier to go downhill.
Exactly.
So when a lot of people do think about wine, obviously, and this is a very tired old question, and I get that, it's always California. But we're changing that drastically because Oregon is becoming known for its wine, and Southern Oregon especially, but Willamette Valley has always been known, but the whole state, really.
Yeah, I think probably Eric Asimov said it best when he said that, you know, Oregon is the most exciting place for wine in the U.S. right now. And I would have to agree with that. You know, it's what kept me coming back. It was, you know, that dynamic collaboration, exploration of just everything in this place, and it's so beautiful. And there's so many different varieties, there's so many different regions, and you know, from my part, Oregon is such a small part of the U.S. wine production.
Yeah,
we produce 1%.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. It's so tiny, and yet, you know, we have these fantastic ratings and really beautiful wines that the national market is really attached to and really excited about and wanting to explore more. And I kind of want to get more of Oregon out to the rest of the world because, you know, there really is a sense of place in the glass, and we just need to produce a little bit more.
Right. And it's something I feel like we can be a little cocky about because we have really good, amazing wine here, and I just, you know, I feel like it should be shared. Wine's supposed to be shared.
It is, yeah. It's supposed to be, it's a story, and it's sharing, and absolutely. You know, we're getting, there's so many French moving here now to Oregon, you know, so that's just something when there's Burgundians moving to Oregon. Yeah.
Okay. So Oregon Wine Experience, you were a judge last year for the competition.
Yes.
I guess, you know, it's something that has evolved in the last couple of years because more wines from up north are now kind of coming into this competition. And this year's competition, 389 wines.
Great. Yeah.
It's incredible to me. And it's like, that 1%, it is baffling to me. But what would you say about the competition last year? I know you weren't a judge this year, but what were your thoughts on the competition last year as far as the wine goes?
I was just really enamored and impressed with the diversity of the products that were there. So many varieties that actually, as I guess I had been here for a little while, and so I was excited to have such a lineup in front of me and just to really taste through and see some vintage variation and understand the different vintages that were being placed in front of me. Whereas my colleagues, I had a Master of Wine down from Vancouver and one from Louisiana who came up, and they had no idea that Oregon was anything but Pinot Noir and Pinot Gris.
Wow. And
to see their eyes, brighten at this beautiful, crisp, tart Sangiovese that was in the glass in front of them, and, the Malbecs and Tempranieros and the diversity, it was really exciting for me to see and just think, sometimes we do a little disservice to a place by getting so hung up on a signature varietal.
On one thing.
One thing. Yeah.
So when you're judging, all you have in front of you is just, all you know is what's in the glass.
Yeah. Yeah, you're just told the vintage and the variety.
Okay.
And that's it.
Right.
So, some areas break it down into regions, so you know that you're getting a Willamette Valley Pinot Noir. And so you can judge it accordingly that way. And is it typical of the vintage? Is it typical of the variety? Does it have a sense of place? And then obviously the quality of the winemaking as well.
And how many wines were in the competition last year? Do you remember?
It was around 300. It was the highest number last year, and I think they got the same, or just again higher this year. So, I mean, Oregon is definitely increasing in terms of how many people are coming here to make wine.
Yeah.
This is kind of the future of fine winemaking in the
exciting.
U.S. Yeah.
So you and all the other judges, you go through every single wine.
We don't go through every single wine because we're broken into two groups. So one...
Okay, I feel better.
Yeah.
I feel better because it baffles. It's still, though, 100-something wines you're tasting.
Yeah, and most competitions, a daily judging competition, you're usually judging between 100 and 120 wines.
Wow.
Yeah. I've been to competitions where they, make you judge more, but... I feel at that point, you're not giving the wines the service and attention that they need.
Exactly. So. Because I know, obviously, you spit out the wine, but there's got to be some absorption,
Yeah, it's more just fatigue on your palate and on your mind as well. You don't really think of, it's like, oh yeah, you poor thing, wine tasting. It's so difficult.
It seems like a lot. That seems like a very overwhelming job.
Yeah, it is. You're trying to put yourself in the mind of the producer and how they cared for these grapes, how they brought them into the cellar. All the while your palate is getting further laden with tannins and acid and a little, it's definitely getting some fatigue. But then, you're trying to focus on what's in the glass and give it as much attention.
Are there any tricks to clear the palate? Or is there anything that judges do to while you're judging?
There's always a cracker or bread on the table, but that does nothing for me. In fact, it almost kills my palate more.
Really?
So yeah, I love my big thing is I need sparkling water. I need a mineral sparkling water that has a little bit of salt in it because salt tends to break down tannins. So I like the saltier French and Spanish waters that can come through at some of these judging events. And then I was actually judging a Texom International Wine Awards in January and with another MS and he was obsessed with meat. He'd have roast beef and prosciutto and things like that, and I was like, wow, I've never seen that
in between tastings.
Yeah, in between flights. So when you're just getting a little bit fatigued by the tannins, he'd be eating meat, and I was like, wow, I've never seen anyone eat meat before, and it actually really worked. So yeah, it was a nice palate cleanser.
So it's something salty.
Something salty.
See, I would ask for a basket of fries.
Yeah,
give me a basket of fries, please.
And that's all you want to eat at lunch for sure.
For sure. And I asked this question last year because it's fascinating to me. But after a weekend of judging or a day of judging wine, what do you tend to crave as far as food and drink go? I mean, are you just like, give me a beer, give me a margarita, give me something different?
Yeah, I want something with acid and something tangy. So I always, gin and tonic, margarita.
Something completely different.
A completely neutral beer, you know, and I don't want anything that's hoppy or, I want something clean and just to not assault my palate anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so you've been doing, how many, like, as far as judging competitions, how long have you been doing that?
About 12 years, 13 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And you've been tasting wine even longer than that. Is there a wine that has stuck out for you? Like I know.
Too many. Far too many wines.
Even like a couple, like just, is there something, maybe it was the occasion too, like just some occasion where you're just like, oh my gosh, this is one of the best wines I've ever had.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I love a Cirtico from Santorini, and, you know, when you're standing in Santorini and you're looking at these 300-year-old vines that have been curled into baskets, and you're smelling the sulfur from the still active, you know, volcano. It's definitely a moving place, and the wine is almost just that liquid place, you know. It's a little bit raw with this, you know, smoky, sulfury element, and there's so much acid and, you know, a flinty character, and it's just, you know, superbly fresh. I also tend to get a little obsessed about wine regions that grow, you know, varieties right on the edge of ripening. I find that those places are some of the most exciting wines for me, in terms of flavor development and complexity, and then, you know, just I think also the harshness of the climate, and, you know, looking at a winemaker, like, what brought you to this place where there's, you know, less than, 500 people or whatever it is.
Right, yeah. Well, there's so many cool stories, too, of winemakers. There's one in Oregon where he rescued these Tempranillo plants and planted them, and that's what started his entire winery. And just the stories of how they came to be, I think, is what makes it so special, too.
Yeah, exactly. There's definitely, you know, this pioneering, adventurous spirit in winemakers and vignerons.
Because it's not easy.
No. And
it's a tough job.
It's a tough job. You know, it's long hours. There's, you know, you're not in this industry for the money, that's for sure. Yeah. You're in it for the people and the stories and the quality of life. And
Awesome. All right, we're wrapping up, so I'm going to get to my final 3 questions. Best advice you've ever been given?
That's a tough one. I know, my grandmother always used to tell me, life's the adventure. Just live it with an open heart and wide eyes, and follow your path. You know, create your path.
Awesome. I like that. If you ever left this place, Oregon, what would bring you back here? What would you miss the most?
I think the people. You know, there's great wine everywhere, but it's the human spirit here that's the generosity of spirit that's in this place.
There's something about Oregon, and especially the people here.
It's so true. My parents were just here from Australia, and they're just, you know, and my brother has come over from Hong Kong. He's like, this doesn't feel like, you know, other parts of the U.S. Oregon is special.
I really do think so. And then finally, if you were ever given a last meal and a last drink, what would that be?
Wow.
And we have decided you can do courses, because a lot of people just can't. They're like, I can't make up my mind. So courses are allowed.
Courses are allowed.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I would definitely need some Fino sherry, some tangy sherry that I would need to have with a freshly shucked oyster.
Okay, I was going to say oysters, probably.
Yeah, just something fresh out of the sea. There would be something about that smell and, the tang and that brininess that would take you back to a place, you know, so I think that would be a, you know, great experience to have. Probably also something, I love some of the wines from the Canary Islands, and and actually Menthea, some tangy, just bright, crunchy, red-fruited, peppery Menthea as well, and with some pulpo, some grilled octopus. I think all of my meals would be,
something out of the ocean.
Reminders, something out of the ocean and reminders of places where I've had, just a magical time.
Right.
And that take me to a place.
Recreate it almost.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
Well, Oregon Wine Experience is, we're recording this, it's a couple weeks out, but Oregon Wine Experience is coming up. And for anybody who hasn't gone, it's just an amazing, magical event.
Yeah, the people the wineries and producers that are in the room that you get access to, you really do get to be part of the Oregon wine landscape for that week.
Right. And you just really get to try, from these tasting rooms that you may never, ever visit.
Yeah, I think that's the, unique thing about the Oregon Wine Experience is, there's so few producers that actually are distributed outside of Oregon. And so it's pretty special to be here and to be sharing their their hard work.
Absolutely.
With you. Yeah.
Well, I'm stoked that you're a part of it. I think you make the Oregon Wine Experience look really good. You do. You do.
I love being here, so thank you.
Yeah. If you're listening to this podcast on iTunes and you like it, please subscribe, rate, and review. It helps other people find us. We're also on Google Play. If you want to check out the video version of this podcast, just go to ktvl.com, click on features, and then off script. Bree, thank you so much.
Thank you.